Welcome to another episode of the 24th Floor. We're coming at you right smack dab in the middle of April. I'm riding solo for once. It's been a minute since I done rode solo. My co-host Ruben Diaz taking a much-deserved day off. As you all know, he fancies himself as a news anchor, and he did what we call a complete game, you know, to have a little baseball analogy. He went from 10 to 10, doing all that. He couldn't make it in for today, but it's all right, because your boy is going to hold it down, Richard Denson. And, of course, we're going to get things going. We're going to first start talking about the Memphis Grizzlies. And we're going to talk about a lot of sports on this show, as you all know. But joining with me today is one of my favorite guests, definitely a friend of the program. He does it all for the Tri-State Defender, a legend here in the Memphis sports media world, Mr. Terry Davis. Welcome to the program.
What up, my brother? Good to be back.
So let's kick things off talking about the Grizzlies.
Okay.
Obviously, you know, the season ended, and I don't want to necessarily say it's the season from hell, but
that was 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, but how would you kind of like summarize this season?
I think if I was grading the Grizzlies, I would give them an F because they started tanking way before the All-Star break. Mm-hmm. You know, I think they started tanking last summer when they traded Desmond Bane.
Oh.
You know, so when they traded Desmond Bane, you know, they changed the construction of their roster. And even coming into the season, this roster was not constructed to win. And then at the All-Star break, they get rid of Jaren Jackson.
Yeah.
And then now you got Ja. So if you get rid of Ja now, ain't that, I mean, you just completely gutted your team. And one thing about Memphis, it's hard to get a star to come here. But when you got a star who really wants to be here, then you pretty much disenfranchise him from doing that. That sends a bad message to not only your fans, but to other players who might want to come play for Memphis.
Now, you was at the exit interviews, and I thank you so much for sending me some stuff because I wasn't able to make it there. You listened to what Zach Kleiman had to say,
yeah.
And y'all asked him, y'all grilled him about Ja Morant and the future of Ja Morant. He was kind of non-committal,
right.
Said that he won't talk about things, but, I mean, just say it right here. Do you think Ja Morant will be a member of the Memphis Grizzlies next season?
Ja wants to be a member, but the management don't want him to be a member.
Why do you say that? Well, because of the jersey giveaway and all the other stuff that went into it?
It's just the little things because they could have easily did that. That was a slap in his face, but not letting him give his jersey away. It was a slap in the face, not allowing him to talk to the media because they could have allowed him to talk to the media.
So they didn't let him talk?
Correct.
Why do you think that is, though, for everything he's been to the franchise? He's been the face of the franchise.
Because they can't control Ja, and they don't know what Ja might say during the exit interview. So in order to control what Ja says, you just don't let him say anything. And you just let the go around. Because right now, publicly, they're saying everything's okay with Ja and all like that, but in backdoors, they still trying to, you know, create a trade value from him. Because, you know, the draft is coming up in a few weeks with the draft lottery coming up next month. So they still trying to get some traction to try to get Ja traded and get some more assets. You know, one thing I said about, you know, they always brag about how many assets you got, but there's no guarantee those assets going to turn into a superstar like Ja.
I mean, yeah, and we've talked about it several times on this program. This is the draft if you are going to move on because there's so many good guards. Yeah. And now with them, you know, the Desmond Bane trade and them getting an extra pick in that. But when you look at this, it seems like we're moving on from that Grizzlies era where they were like this close to making it to the conference finals and the finals. I mean, Dez is gone, Jaren is gone, Dylan Brooks is gone, and now it looks like Ja is on his way out. I just don't like how this front office has kind of handled that. It seems like they backdoored Desmond when they traded him. That just came out of nowhere. Jaren, it kind of came out of nowhere, even though I did call it on this program that it needed to happen. How they handled Dylan Brooks was unexcusable, and now it just seems like they're stabbing Ja in the back. So I get the calls from fans to say that they want to move on from Kleiman, and they're very upset with Para, especially because there's still not a deal yet done with FedEx Forum, and we're getting close to that. And so that's why, obviously, you got the players talking about Nashville, like LeBron and Draymond. So it's a lot of noise that's really making Grizzlies fans unhappy. What does this organization need to do to quiet the noise? Because I actually like how they draft, because I like Coward, I like Edie, I like Cam. This front office recognizes good young talent, but it seems to be a disconnect with the fan base.
They have got to admit that they made mistakes. They made a mistake when they let Dylan go.
Yes.
They made a mistake when they let Taylor Jenkins go. Because Taylor Jenkins, you know, he might not have got you deep in the playoffs, but he had your fan base, happy. They had hope.
He was knocking on the door.
Exactly. But when they got rid of the two leaders of the team, as much as I love Ja's not a leader. He's just a superstar.
Yeah.
He has some presence there, but Dillon Brooks and Desmond Bane were your leaders on the team. As much as I love Jaren is a face of the team, but everybody respected him, but he was not the hardcore leader. Jaren was, look, we just gonna do it the right way, be professional. But Dillon got in your face, Desmond got in your face, and they kept you strong, and they was a force there. And you pretty much took the heart and soul out of that. You compiled one mistake after another mistake after another mistake. Privately they gonna admit they made some mistakes because they thought if they had changed the philosophy going away from Taylor Jenkins to this new coach, that they would get them to the next level. It got them to the next level, but it was the wrong level. Mm-hmm. They went backwards instead of forwards. And now they compounding it by making more mistakes on top of the other mistakes to try to fix that up. I'm not a smart man, but I can see a salary dump when I see it. Desmond Bane was a salary dump.
You think so? I mean, look at the picks they got, though.
Desmond
In a way
Bane,
it was, but I feel like
Jaren Jackson was a salary dump.
Yeah.
The reason you didn't re-sign Marcus Smart because you wanted to get rid of his salary.
That was just a bad.
And you gave away a first-round pick.
Yeah.
It's just constantly things in the wall. With these new expansion teams coming in, mm-hmm. you got an extra $400 million coming in as free money. Mm-hmm. That's going to be to your base.
Across.
I'm not saying Memphis not losing money, but I'm not saying they willing to go into tax or even the first April.
So how much more grace, maybe grace isn't even the word, it seems like we always put everybody on the clock. Isolo, I think, gets a pass because he did not expect the season to go like this with all of his guys getting hurt, and they essentially were tanking. I mean, we look at that last game. You was there with me against the Cavs. Half of the guys who were on the court didn't even have a locker in the locker room. So I went into the locker room, and I'm like, how are we supposed to talk to Derek Whitehead or Ball, Adama Ball? Like, you got Meshack starting at the 5 in the regular season finale, and he's the same height as me. So, I mean, Isolo, I know, like, maybe some fans don't like him because of his disconnect that he had with Ja, but I'll give him another season. But just looking at Isolo and the whole front office, we got to win. The Grizzlies got to win again soon. So if you was looking at it from a fan's perspective, how much time do you give them to get it right before you got a clean house? Because look at what happened in Chicago. They had enough, and they got rid of their front office, and Billy D might be on his way out next.
Exactly. One thing about Memphis and the fans of Memphis, they love winning, and they like support winning. You're going to have your hardcore fan that goes down there, but I remember the days when we had nothing, and if the product's not on the floor, they're not going, because it's not like the Grizzlies game was cheap.
Yeah.
It's very expensive to go to a Grizzlies game, unlike a Tiger game. It takes a willingness to go out there, and they know that it takes money to go out there, and they make a lot of money off the sales and the jersey sales and all that other stuff. But if you're not coming out to the game or you're not following the team, you're not gonna get all that sales and all like that. So your residual income go down. So I give them another year for something major has to change again, if not sooner.
Well, so you talk about the jersey sales, and that is the case where I want to make on, like, probably what maybe you hold off on trading Ja, because who on the team is going to sell jerseys like that? Who on the team is going to really kind of push to want to go buy sneakers? I mean, there are some really good players on the Grizzlies. I think Cedric Coward is a future star in the making. He's very confident. He's very good. Edie could be something. I don't see star there. But, I mean, we got to see who they get in the draft and something like that. That's why a lot of people have attached themselves to Darius Acuff, but we don't know if he's going to be a Grizzlies guy. To me, I know I said on this program that I would trade Ja Morant in the offseason, but I would just kind of take a strong look at it and be like, is this really the right thing for selling tickets? Because right now, the price to get in a Grizzlies game can sometimes be as low as $2. You'll spend more money paying the park than you will to pay for an actual ticket in the game.
But one thing about Ja Morant, this is one thing he does. Everyone knows he has the potential to play, and he has proven he can play. When he plays, your revenue goes up because people want to see him play. Because when you watch Ja Morant, you never know what to expect from him. It's almost like going to a play for the first time and not seeing it and not knowing what to expect because it's not scripted, it's not the status quo. As much as I like Sarah Coward and Jalen Wells, they are good players, but they're not star quality.
Exactly.
And even if Acuff come here as a #1 pick, he gonna get jersey sales, but there's no guarantee he's gonna be a star.
Yeah.
It's one thing to being a good player, and it's another thing being a star. You know, I think the closest player who could come to selling the type of jerseys job is probably Edey because of who he is and who he represents.
Yeah, the big man. So how much pressure do you think it is? And obviously we're talking about the lottery. So really what is pressure? But how much do you think is really at stake with this draft lottery for the Grizzlies to land a top 4 pick? Because I see 4 stars in this draft, and then I see very good players. Obviously, we've talked about it on this program. Darren Peterson, A.J. DeBonsa, Caleb Wilson, and Boozer. I think all 4 of those guys will be bona fide stars. So if the Grizzlies were to get one of those 4 players, that is the path to your next star. But if they don't get a top 4 pick, and right now they're not projected to get a top 4 pick, where do we go from here?
Basically, you have to use that draft capital to get somebody here that ordinarily would not come here voluntarily. So, you know, you have a decent base. The biggest problem with the Memphis Grizzlies as constructed is defense and rebounding. You know, I'm not going to count on Edey until Edey shows me he can show up on a regular basis. You know, everybody talk about how much Ja hadn't played. You know, I know that Edey hadn't played. He's played even less than Ja.
Yeah.
So until you get somebody there, you still got to improve your defense and your rebounding. Even under Islo's system, one of the biggest problems is defense because it's one thing to go 100 miles an hour, but the other team's going 100 miles an hour too. So eventually, if you're not in rhythm going 100 miles an hour, you still got to be good defensively. And they have not shown to be a great defensive team under the present construction.
Who from out of this team, we talk about Edey and Coward, but who are some other guys that you look at and be like, okay, he's somebody who I want to keep around going forward? Because when we looked at the last 20, 25 games, and this is what I told people, a lot of the people who would be like, oh, I'm not going to a Grizzlies game, it's boring, they suck, they're not good. I'm like, half of the dudes, most of the guys who are playing right now aren't going to be on the team next year.
Ty Jerome, I was impressed with him. He was pretty good. Even Taylor Hendrickson, he came in and did what he needed to do. Now, William Clayton Jr., everyone knew he had a bad transition here. I don't know what the problem was, but
giving him a whole training camp, though, he might be good, though.
He might be good, and he already committed to going to him and Cedric has committed to going to Summer League. So it just depends. Like I said, they have some role player that can fit in, but you have to get some closers, and that's one thing I like about Ja Morant because love him or hate him, he can close a game.
Yeah.
And in the NBA, it is hard to close games. So he does have the ability, and not only you getting up a superstar, you getting up a closer. Because as much as I love Jaren, he was okay, but he was never a closer. Desmond Bane, a great closer. Ja Morant, a great closer. Dylan Brooks, he might not have closed, but he wasn't afraid to try when he was here. So you got to get that mindset there because you had to have somebody. I'm not saying it's hard to do because Cedric has that mindset, but he just had the ability to do it because the last 30 games, Memphis wasn't trying to win, and they didn't put a team out there that was trying to win any games in the last 30 games of this season.
How do you feel about Cam Spencer? That's a guy who I would probably say end up being my favorite Grizzly this year. And maybe it's because I'm a big UConn fan, and to see that he made the transition from UConn and still be a good player. I saw a lot of him, obviously playing point guard and everything. What do you kind of make of Cam Spencer's future?
Cam Spencer is the younger version of Luke Kennard.
Okay.
If he can go out there, he can't do two roles.
Kennard was his vet, wasn't he?
Yeah. He can't do two roles. When he was playing point, he used to have a lot of assists, but he couldn't shoot the ball. When he was just out there running free, shooting the ball, he was one of the best three-point shooters in the league. But he is very dimensional. And as long as he can improve his defensive ability on the NBA level, he'll be with Memphis for a long time because he has the ability to be a catch-and-three shooter, just like Steve Kerr, Luke Kennard, and one of those. And he can define that role, but he has to have other people around him so he can be available to do a catch and shoot. So I was impressed. He had a great shooting season, but he showed flashes of he could be a point guard, but he did not show the ability to be a combo guard.
Yeah. Now let's kind of transition because obviously we want the Grizzlies to get back to a place where they're playing right now and during the playoffs. And it's kind of funny as we look at it. If you're a Grizzlies fan, of course you're now looking toward the future and the playoffs, but you also should be kind of rooting for the Orlando Magic to lose because if the Orlando Magic loses twice, then the Grizzlies get their pick.
Twice.
And that's 2 picks in the first round in a good draft. But so I got to ask you, Terry, let's just kind of think, what's your kind of playoff predictions? Right
Man,
now?
you know, I love Desmond. I love Desmond.
I don't think Orlando's going to beat Philly. I mean, by the time this episode airs,
But
we'll know
no one
what
thought
happened.
Portland's going to beat the Phoenix last night either.
Well, I wouldn't say no one. I kind of predicted that was going to happen because Phoenix with the Jalen Green and Devin Booker and not really having a solid point guard.
Yeah.
Like, I knew that was. And then I know they're bigs. I mean, Mark Williams. I couldn't count on them.
But my thing is, if Memphis is lucky enough to get 2 chances at the lottery, and their chances go from 14% to 25%, you know, you got to take those odds. And if you get 2 picks in the top 4, man, you could do a lot of damage with that.
You could. What is I mean, sticking with
now,
the
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, if Memphis got 2 picks, would you trade those 2 picks, top 4 picks, for the guy in Milwaukee that's a Toronto?
No. For Giannis ain't going to want to come here.
But he has no trust if he's under contract.
He's not going to give his best effort. Well, yes, he will.
Yeah.
He will. Don't do that. I wouldn't do that. Because who's he going to play with? It's going to be no different than what he's got going on in Milwaukee.
Yeah,
It'd be different if you kept Jaren.
You still hadn't traded Ja yet.
Nah, man.
You put Ja and Giannis together?
Nah, man. I mean, they hurt. You know what I'm saying? Your best ability is your availability.
But was Ja really hurt?
No, at the end, no. No, which for all intents and purposes, I have to say, if Ja Morant never plays another game as a member of the Memphis Grizzlies, I can say that I was there at his last game because who was he going against? My Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah.
So that's why I got to say, like, you know, about the playoffs, what we feeling? I've obviously, you know, I'm locked in because I'm a Hawks fan. So, you know, I'm all locked in on the Knicks series, but just broad spectrum, what do you think? What's your hot take?
I'm looking forward to the East. Because it's like a smorgasbord, and it's everybody but Boston. I can cheer for any team in the East.
You can't cheer for Boston?
Can't cheer for Boston.
Why not?
I'm a Laker fan, man.
Oh, come on.
Come on, man. They got one more chip than us, and I can't cheer for them. Oh, I'm not cheering for the Lakers now until, you know, the current situation changes.
Yeah, I mean, what LeBron said, who would want to, you know. I hope LeBron comes back.
I hope he does
season.
not.
I hope so the Grizzlies can boo him, so the fans can boo him.
Oh, they're going to boo him regardless. He will be with Cleveland. But he'll be back playing next year.
So who you think comes out of the East? Because I got Cleveland.
I think Detroit's not coming out. I think Boston might come out.
You think so?
I think Boston might come out. Because as much as I want Jalen Duren and the Memphis Connection to come out, they don't have no NBA scar tissue. They have not. They have not been through the rigors of that.
Yeah.
You know, and Cleveland, you got 2 players that have proven that they can't get out of a conference. Donovan and James Harden. That they just don't give me no confidence. I want them to come out, but I just don't have that faith in them. So I'm a default to Boston coming out.
Who you got coming out of the West?
The toss-up between San Antonio and Denver, and I'm going to lean into a Denver because the same thing with Detroit. Yeah. They have not had the heartache of the playoff. They don't know what to feel like to play in the playoffs.
So no OKC.
Happy trail.
We're going to take a break on that, though. He don't believe in OKC. When we come back, we're going to keep talking Memphis, but instead of talking about the pros, we're going to talk about the college. We're talking Memphis Tigers when we're back after this. All right, welcome back. Let's talk Memphis athletics. We're going to go all over the place. What do you want to start with, football or basketball?
Hey, man, basketball rule the king, but, you know, a spring game is coming up in a couple of days.
Yeah. Spring football is this weekend. So, obviously, it's been a lot going around the Memphis football. Of course, the new coach, Charles Huff, running things, been kind of being accused of running a Navy SEALs program, no music over there. He got some guys coming in, Charlie Strong, Jimbo. What's the vibes around Memphis football?
The vibes are, like the kid said, the vibes are vibing, man, because, you know, they had not played a game yet, but that anticipation of not knowing what's coming around the corner, not knowing who's going to be the quarterback, Marcus Nolan.
I was just about to say, who's
Nolan,
QB1 right now?
He's going to be the quarterback. But, one thing about it, he's going to always have a team. This team right here, I think if he can get some guys who can catch the ball and the offensive line can run for him, I think this team can have a chance to compete for a championship for the American.
Oh, wow.
If Marcus Nolan, because he is not a bad quarterback, he just comes with a little bit of luggage tonight.
Yeah.
Other than that, if he can integrate himself with the play, because this is his first year under Huff, and also with Air. Air, he comes in from South Carolina, Ohio State, but he has not proven anything. Marcus has the arm to take you to that next level, and he could be here for multiple years. So if he can come here and get that chemistry going with those guys, he seems like a really good guy, and the offense coordinator seems like they've bonded together. If they can get that chemistry developed now, then come this summer, then they can build it up. I think they can be a top contender for American championship.
It seems like last season the Tigers' football identity was running the ball.
Yes.
You had Sutton Smith and DeRosier. And Charles Huff, he kind of comes in that academy. Saquon Barkley spoke very highly of him on the hire. Do you think that the Tigers will still have that run-first mentality from what you've seen?
Because of the way his philosophy is, he believes in being big up front on the offensive line and defensive line. He said if you can be big up front, you can control a lot of situations, because in the American, they're going to be one of the bigger teams in the American. They got some good tests outside the conference, because everybody in the past used to always criticize Memphis' schedule. But this year they open up at UNLV. The third game of the season, they go to Boise State. If you can go out there and win those two games, you're going to set yourself up for really nice potential.
Opening up at UNLV in Vegas. Are you going to Vegas?
Hey, I'm already there. I'm already there.
I got a timeshare in Vegas. I'm going to try to talk to management, see if I can go. What would you kind of say is probably the expectations of Memphis in year one of Huff?
The year one of Huff, they just want him to put a team out there that's going to compete and be exciting and raise the interest of people. Because, people in Memphis, they'll come to the game, but they leave at halftime. Yeah. It's just a habit of doing it. So he needs to have a team that can grasp it. And I think with Nolan and a few Memphis kids on this team, I think they will grasp this team, because the excitement has not been great. The greatest excitement was like the 19 season when they went to the Cotton Bowl. Because everyone knew that was a good team with Brady and all those good guys coming in and was coming back. But in the age of the transfer portal and the NIL, people are not getting to know the players like they did. That team, everyone knew that team coming up. But with this team, with brand new coach, brand new players, I think they just need to establish their potential, and then they just need to exceed expectations. You go out in Vegas and beat Muschamp down there in Vegas, that'll send a good message to your fan base.
What are you hoping to see out of this spring football game this weekend?
First of all, nobody get hurt. First of all, nobody get hurt. And I want to see two things: if the offensive line can block for the running back, and two, if the receivers can catch. That sounds simple, but last year, if we hadn't got the kid from Nevada, we don't know what that team would have been like. And because that was the biggest problem. Those guys could not catch. It would hit them in the hands, and they just couldn't catch. But if they get it, the O-line to block and receivers can catch, I think that'll send a good message to the fan base.
Do you think the renovations will actually make a difference in fans showing up? I drive by the stadium basically every day because I live in that area. And I look at it and I've told friends, I'm like, okay, it looks really nice. I don't think it's going to make a difference in putting more fans in the stands. What do you think?
It's going for the hoity-toity that like that type of new short. It is very nice. And it's not going to be that expensive like going to a FedEx Forum. But if you go to that level, you can be inside, watch a game, and not be in the elements. So that's
like if it rains and stuff like
it's
that.
not
like
a bad
USF
thing.
Game last year.
That's not a bad thing to do, because, we kind of pampered, because, we can avoid the rain if we want to. But, that's just what we do. But I think for the comfort and it's gonna be nice because it's a shiny new toy. It don't look like an old sombrero anymore. It looks really, really nice. I pass by it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I love it. It just gives you that new car feel.
Yeah. Do you think little things like that is stuff that Memphis has to take as they still try to get in a Power 4 conference? Because it seems like they're knocking on the door. They knocked on the door to Big 12. Big 12 said no. And some fans may be like, okay, well, Big 12 said, no, we ain't never getting in. But I think you got to keep trying and trying. And I think that there maybe is a path to get in the ACC. I don't know. So what do you think?
My thing is, I'm not a big, proponent of begging to get in because I like the ACC. I like the Pac-12. They just don't have no money.
Power 4
they ain't got no money. Only thing you need to do, you need to get in a conference where you can be competitive and be able to win. If you look at the former football schools that went up to the Big 12, they're not that dominant. Now the Houston basketball team, they're dominant because it's so much easier to do it in basketball. Now Memphis go to the ACC, I think they can compete with all the teams in the ACC.
Except for UNC and Duke.
I think they can compete with them. If you're on that level, because Memphis used to play those teams. Memphis is not that far down from those levels because the Dukes and the North Carolina don't compare to the SEC teams.
Yeah.
And Memphis is not too far from the middle range of the SEC teams.
Yeah.
So if you go to a conference right there with the resources there, I think they can compete on that level.
And that's a good segue because we're talking about basketball. Let's talk Memphis basketball. Of course, you were right about, hiring a GM. They got it, but they got a guy from the G League, and so a lot has been going on the recruiting trail. Obviously, we knew Penny gave players a deadline, and now we're just starting to see slowly but surely guys are hitting the portal. His son hit the portal. Curtis Givens hit the portal. Simon Majok has hit the portal. But they brought some guys in. What do you kind of make of what Tigers basketball has been doing lately? They didn't bring back P.J. Haggerty, which I know a lot of people thought P.J. was coming back. He ended up going to A&M.
Glad he didn't come back because
Me too.
Yeah, because P.J. He's a good kid, but he's not worth the money for the Tiger program that he is for A&M. A&M got much deep pockets than especially with this stuff going on. So they got a lot of extra money to spend in Texas with the oil money.
Yeah.
So, we could not afford him. And PJ is just, don't get it wrong, I don't know if he loves the game or not. I think he loves that paycheck more than he loves the game. Because sometimes, his best situation to go pro and be a better player was staying in Memphis, but he didn't care about that. So he left here and went to Kansas State. So, I have no problem with that. He would have gave Memphis some recognition of players, but with Fred Smith Jr. coming in and the other local guy coming in, now the people in Memphis have somebody they know before the season starts.
You have a building block with those two, Cello Jackson, Fred Smith, and Julius Stedford.
Exactly.
And that's the way that Penny kind of wants to move now, is he wants to build it back within the community of guys that if you come to the game that the fans know who you are because they've seen you grown up. I've been trying to tell my boss how big of a deal it was that Fred Smith Jr. signed with the Tigers. Can you put that into words? Because I want it to come from another voice.
Because one, he's a Tennessee Player of the Year.
Yes. And top 100 player.
Right. He's not going. He has good basketball IQ. That might sound like it's simple, but the team last year had terrible basketball IQ. He will make the best play, and when he plays, that will make. If Bradshaw does come back, he will make Bradshaw better. He's the type of player that make other players better around him. He might not be, he does the little things well. He may not be a superstar, but he does the little things well. And Clello is probably a better player than him. He just don't have the name recognition. Memphis is off to a better start now than they were last year, because last year we knew this Penny was throwing this thing together at potpourri because everything fell about, because it took him forever to get a center.
Yeah.
And that's proved to be one of the weakness of the team.
Do you think Fred plays day one,
day one,
big minutes,
starter.
day one? Starter, day one.
Day one starter.
Okay. I mean, I didn't want to say it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Day one starter. So what do you think about I was kind of disappointed they wasn't able to get Fryson. Not Justin, who's at Houston. I'm talking about his brother, Jordan, from Chattanooga. Why do you think that was? Because it seemed like he was a shoo-in to come to Memphis. What happened with that? He ends up going to Wichita State. So he'll see Memphis.
Yeah.
Just ain't gonna be playing for Memphis.
Yeah, don't get it twisted. You know, Wichita State made him a nice little offer too, and also too, some kids just want to get out of town. They just want to leave town, no matter what you offer him and what you're doing. You know, just because Penny may want you to come here, there's no guarantee that the kid wants to come here. It has to be a mutual agreement. Just like Curtis Givens, I don't know why he left. I think he should have stayed. I think he should have stayed. I don't know if he's getting bad advice. I don't think his NIL deal was good enough. But I don't know. But I think, you know, for what he got paid last year, you know, he got overpaid and under-delivered.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about the guy from Tulane, Brumbaugh.
Yeah.
A lot of Tigers fans want him. Some are kind of like iffy on him. What's your take on him? Because he torches Memphis every time that we play Tulane.
One thing about him, he can shoot, and Memphis doesn't need a shooter, but can you do that for 28, 30 games? You know, Ron Hunter, you know, he just has Penny number. He just know how to match up with Penny game, and you know how to put his players in the best position. But also one of the reasons he was so good because the Memphis team was so bad because they didn't play well as a unit, and they didn't have a lockdown defender. So if you get a lockdown defender who could do a boxing one on the kid, can he play off the dribble or off that pick or off that? Can he play off the ball?
So in the basketball world, we all saw Memphis already made a change on the women's side, getting Hannah Hayden. Now I got to ask on the men's side, obviously they didn't make a change. Penny's coming back. A question that is asked a lot, is this conference championship in NCAA tournament or bust for Penny?
NCAA for sure. Conference championship, no. Because if you do well in the postseason and he gets to the tournament, I think that trumps everything else.
So he just got to make the tournament and he's safe.
If he makes the tournament, he's safe, and he's gonna get a contract extension because next year be his last year as a deal.
Because a lot of people, it's make or break. You got to make it happen.
Yeah, now I feel if Penny doesn't go to either one of those, I think he will leave on his own will accord. He'll just leave.
And you still think he's going to schedule them tough non-conference? He ain't going to...
Have you not seen the pre-schedule? They going to the Bahamas. They're going to play some tough games in the Bahamas. They got Texas. They got a really good, hard schedule coming in already. So, you know, it's gonna be interesting. You know, that's one thing I kind of wish Penny would have scaled back on, because sometimes you need to gain that confidence, because the team last year, I think they lost in when they lost to Wake Forest.
Yeah.
I think that game just took the heart out of that team. They weren't able to build up confidence right there, because if they had won that game, that would have given them a little confidence. And one thing about college athletics, once you get confidence and you get that buy-in, because that's one of his biggest things he said, didn't have buy-in until late. Matter of fact, he never got buy-in from that team last year.
Yeah, well, it's definitely something we will track in the coming weeks. Terry, I always appreciate you coming on the program, your knowledge, your insightfulness, your helping me behind the scenes. It's always great to have you. Thank you, my guy.
Good to be here.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to move from Memphis to talk about Ole Miss. Stay close. All right, it's been a little bit since we talked about Ole Miss. We did a lot of talking about Memphis earlier in the show, but of course the premier program in the Mid-South is the Ole Miss Rebels, and they are also doing what they got to do getting ready for the upcoming football season. So, of course, you know, if you can't talk Ole Miss without this guy about really anything Ole Miss athletics, here's the host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, which you can catch right here on 24 Plus, YouTube, and anywhere you stream your podcast. Once again, welcome to the program. After a week off, Mr. Stephen Willis. I got to give you the clap, and Ruben ain't here to talk trash on me, so I'm going to get it in.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about, because we get to talk about football even though it's in mid-April. Yes. I'm excited. This Ole Miss football team, there's a lot of positive vibes coming out of spring practice, and I can't wait to talk about it, man.
So what has really caught your eye? Because I haven't got a chance to make the trip up down to Oxford. It's obviously, it's a lot that goes on in our news business. So you are my guy. You're my scout. I mean, from what you've seen from your perspective, and I know you know a lot of guys who are tapped into the program, what are you feeling about this team?
Well, seen is kind of an interesting phrase because everybody has seen about the equivalent of an episode of Friends. So nobody has that much information. Yeah. So, but the little birds, the little moles inside of practice that are talking about that, they're really impressed with Jonte Cook, the transfer from Syracuse. He was a 5-star coming out of high school. It looks like in his money year, he is developing pretty well. Trinidad was mentioned by John David Baker and by Luke Haas in a post-practice media event of kind of being a perfectionist in the room. He's kind of leaning in on that Tom Brady vibe with Joe Judge as his quarterback coach. That has people excited, and this defense has a chance to be really good, like 2024 good. So there's a lot of people excited about what's going on.
What's been the word on Mayor Pete, on Pete Golden, on how he's kind of running things, the vibes? Obviously we talked last time you were on the show. He's kind of treating this kind of like NFL OTAs. What does you feel like he's getting a little bit more comfortable in this role, being the head man in charge now that he has a full camp now to be the head coach?
I think so. Especially, it's weird. You go into a press conference setting and there's questions being asked and you actually get answers. And somebody like Pete Golding just wants to talk about ball. He's not overly guarded about his answer. And let's talk about what something to do with NIL that's not really about playing on the field. No, Pete will talk ball with you. And you heard, if you watched on Twitter, the clip from Greg McElroy's podcast, him going over just simple adjustments of a 3rd and medium with Malachi Toney against Miami and him talking about what the defensive backs have to do and all of the checks and adjustments and all of that. The guy likes to get into ball, and Ole Miss fans kind of refreshed. Now, I'm not going to take away the fact that Lane had averaged 10 wins a year at Ole Miss. That's not what I'm saying. But it is refreshing to have a coach that is willing to start actually talking about football again as opposed to talking about everything else.
So will Pete still essentially call the plays on defense, or will he kind of like siphon that off to his other guys? Because that's what I'm always intrigued about head coaches is how much of the play calling will they retain, because of course they got to oversee so much. Obviously when Pete took over, he was the defensive coordinator, so he was over the defense, but it seems like he got spearheaded into doing everything else. Now that we have a whole season in front and he has his actual staff, how much of the defensive play calling will he do, or will it go to somebody else?
He will call the plays on defense. He's emphatic about the fact that he's going to call the plays on defense. Now, he has help. He has 2 co-defensive coordinators that do things like charting plays in practice and getting ready and doing all of the minutia work that was normally the task of Pete Golding when he was the defensive coordinator. So that is going to come off of his plate. But the act of actually calling whatever defense on game day, he's pretty good at it, as he says, so expect that he's going to continue that.
Now, obviously on the offensive side, you don't have Charlie Weiss Jr. anymore, so now that's going to be a big question mark. Who is going to call plays on the offensive side, and what do you kind of expect from this offense as it's now this new world, no Lane, no Charlie?
It's going to be John David Baker. He's the offensive coordinator, and John David Baker says the offense is 80% roughly the same as it was under Charlie Weiss. Now, the difference is John David Baker actually predates Charlie Weiss at Ole Miss. So there's some Jeff Lebby in there, and there's some other stuff, air raid principles like Graham Harrell and all of that, the USC stuff that happened as well. So it's going to look a whole lot the same with tempo and all of the system in place, but you have a situation where maybe the crutch plays are a little bit different. The plays that you have to call when the play clock's going down, stuff like that, your go-tos, maybe that changes a little bit, but it's going to look really similar to what it did a year ago.
Now, I talked about this in the Memphis segment when I was talking about how the Tigers were a run-first football team. In a way, you could say Ole Miss is too. They leaned on Kejuan Lacey a lot last season. But with Trinidad coming back, getting more money and the expectations that are on him, do you still say that Ole Miss plays through Lacey, or do you think now they'll throw that thing more with Trinidad?
The biggest misconception that you can have about Ole Miss is that they're a pass-first team. They are a physical run-first offense and have been for a very long time. John David Baker's not going to change that. You're going to see physical football, and Kewan Lacey and others are going to get their shots in the run game.
So, Stephen, when is the spring football game? Because my calendar's all over the place.
There's not a spring football game, but April 25th, they're doing a Meet the Rebels to where fans can go get autographs from players instead of an actual game on the field. So April 25th is the end of spring, but they're not having a game.
Why they're not having a game?
They're not having a game because the rule wasn't passed before the spring about not having a spring transfer portal window, which changed things. It's something we can get into at a later date on that. But since that rule got in, you can do it now and it wouldn't be a problem, but it was already set.
Well, Stephen, we are running out of time, but I do have some news to share regarding you. We oftentimes are talking to you from your cave, your man cave out there, but we actually will have you in studio on our next episode, man. We are excited to have you right here on the 24th floor physical set. I know I am looking forward to it a lot.
Man, I can't wait. This is going to be a whole lot of fun to see this ugly mug walking into the studio and just answering questions. All of you guys that have to deal with me on a weekly basis, you're going to actually see me. So I'm actually a little bit nervous. Maybe your production people might want to get in on me or something. I don't know.
No, I'll be all good. Stephen, as always, tell the people what you're working on before we let you go.
Yeah, we're finishing up spring practice. I'm getting ready for my tour stop next week in North Mississippi and Memphis, which will bring me to your studio. We're going to get ready to the end of spring. We're going to handle basketball transfer portal. And all of a sudden, this baseball team's pretty good. Yes. So we're going to pay attention to that.
See, we don't talk here because Ruben doesn't watch baseball. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit today, but we are running out of time. But Stephen, as always, we appreciate you having you on. We'll see you next week, my friend.
Yes, you will absolutely see me next week. Take care, bud.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, it is the best thing we saw. Well, look who decided to join me on the program again. Like I said, Ruben is out, and so I had to get somebody else, and it was an easy call to make. Joining us once again on the program, my guy, Ezekiel Telemaco, news reporter extraordinaire here at ABC 24.
What's going on? Howdy. You know, I'm excited to be here. Obviously, Ruben, I think he's on his way to Houston, so we'll make sure to send him a postcard from Memphis.
So last time we had you on, we were obviously talking about, March Madness and everything. You wasn't where it was when we were wrapping it up. Ruben was taking victory laps because technically he finished with the most points of the group with us. But, I still have more of the March Madness. But something that you put on your social media was this segment, Best Thing I Saw, with your J. Cole Meek Mill take. So
absolutely. As
we do this segment, it's the best thing we saw in the past week. We'll let you go first. What's the best thing you saw?
The best thing that I saw was all the teams tanking. I know it sounds so crazy, but I just can't stand how Adam Silver has been handling all of the tanking when it comes to the recent NBA catastrophe, right? The purgatory that we're seeing with all these NBA teams when it comes to the madness of teams just being mid, as the kids say, mediocre, not competing for anything, right? I'd rather a team be either trash or amazing. Again, I'm from Boston, as many of the viewers know, right? Where it's like, it's a flop of a season. It's a failure. Where's the camera? Right here. It's a failure of a season if you don't make it to the championship and if you don't win. I mean, again, I'm a Patriots fan. I'm a Celtics fan. Even for us, we lost in the Super Bowl and people aren't celebrating. There's obviously some fans that are saying, hey, when it comes to making the Super Bowl, it was cool. But when it comes to the tanking and Adam Silver in particular, teams are going to be trash regardless every single year. And unless it's a randomized order for everybody, all 32 teams or all 30 teams or whatever league it is, right? You are going to have teams that are going to tank. So it doesn't really there's no incentive for a team not to tank, if that makes sense. So I'm happy that, there's 10 teams out in the NBA right now that, again, have more than 50 or more losses. I know a lot of people are saying that it's bad for the NBA, but I personally think that it's good. I think that Adam Silver should just wake up and just realize how bad of a state the NBA is in.
You just missed when we had Terry on, and Terry said how he doesn't like Boston, but he does predict Boston to come out of the East. I think we were talking about tanking. The Grizzlies definitely were tanking in the end of the season because they had Jemai Meshack, who is the same height as me, playing the 5.
Yeah.
So now when people see me around and they be like, oh, well, you need to suit up for the Grizzlies. They can put you at the 5. I used to shake my head. There literally is a guy the same height as me playing the 5. So now everybody's going to expect me to be able to play the 5 in basketball. All right, let's move on to my best thing I saw. We're going to stay in the NBA. My best thing I saw, that Charlotte Hornets Miami Heat playing game. Kobe White. Kobe White drilling a 3 to tie the game, end up sending it into overtime. I thought Charlotte still was going to lose it, but LaMelo Ball right back, driving right by Hawkins to get the game winner. And the Hornets, they live to see another day. Now, they're still not in the playoffs yet because that was just the 9-10
Oh, 100%,
game.
yeah, I know.
They still got to actually beat the loser of Philly and Orlando, which, like I said, by the time this episode airs, we'll know how that game went. And I'm going to go on a limb and say I think Charlotte is going to beat whoever loses that game, especially if it's Orlando.
Absolutely. But when it comes to what we can expect going forward and in terms of the playoffs, I guess my last question for you would be, what are you looking forward to the most? I know your Hawks, you're really excited about them.
Yeah, we back at war against New York. I ain't going to talk about it too much on this program because we're running out of time. What am I looking for? I'm looking for, to feel like I'm seeing the face of the NBA in this, because it seems like, LeBron is on the back end, KD's on the back end, Steph is on the back end. Who is going to emerge out of this playoffs where, this is the face of the NBA? Even if it's an international player. If it's SGA and SGA gets title number 2, if it's Wemby and it's Tom, or if it's on the American side, if Anthony Edwards, Cade Cunningham, Donovan Mitchell, if any of them rise to the occasion, I want to feel like coming out of this playoffs, I know that this is this player's insert players league going forward.
Sure. So you want the throne to be passed.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Because the Lakers ain't going to win it. No, sorry, Terry. The Lakers ain't going to win it with LeBron. The Rockets ain't going to win it. Well, no, the Rockets ain't going to win it. So, this old guard, we're not going to see. We're not going to see. Unless the Cavs, that's my pick to come out of the East, is the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Sure.
But Harden isn't the leader of that team. That's Donovan Mitchell's team. I would love to see Harden finally win a championship. But if they win, people are going to be talking about Donovan Mitchell going forward,
Absolutely.
not necessarily James Harden. So I want to see the real face of the league come out of this playoffs.
Sure. I think that, again, I'm going to give my early predictions, but I'm going to say Spurs and Celtics. When it comes, 100%. I mean,
Spurs and Celtics.
A lot of people think that OKC is this amazing team, but people forget.
Terry doesn't have OKC coming out.
People forget that, again, Halliburton had them on the edge in that Game 7 before he went out with that ruptured Achilles. He had 9 points. He was 3 for 4 from the three-point line. He was super efficient, and his Pacers were in the lead. They were going to win that game. They lost by 11 or 12 points that game. I believe the score was 101 to, I think, 90-something. But when it comes to...
Hey, man, I hear you, but OKC has Jared McCain now.
OKC is okay. No, for me, man. When it comes to what I've seen from that team, they're equivalent to the 2019 Toronto Raptors to me. When it comes to, when KD tore his Achilles and KD was going off and everybody just was, oh, well, this is the result. I know that was a Game 6. It wasn't a Game 7, so it's a little different. And Kevin Durant is definitely not, who we're talking about in terms of Halliburton. But Halliburton was cooking. He was going crazy. And again, the Pacers lost by, like I said, 11 or 12 points when it came to that Game 7 game. He was out for the first quarter, So I think that a lot of people are over-evaluating SGA and the, Oklahoma City Thunder when it comes to what they've accomplished. They beat hurt Pacers team, which wasn't even the strongest team coming out of the East. They just got hot at the right time. Everybody knew that the Celtics were the best team on paper. They just had a lot more going on in the background. Jason Tatum tore his Achilles, but I still think they were going to lose to the Knicks that series anyways when it came to that. But I think that a lot of people are overestimating or overplaying the hand that OKC has. The West is really strong. Jokic is the best player in the world. Wemby, again, in terms of that team and that cast, I have a lot of faith in them. The only thing that you can say about OKC is, hey, they've been here before and they won, right? But there's nothing that screams they're going to even make it to the finals again to me, because I think the Spurs are a better team. And when they faced each other in the regular season, we saw that the Spurs were a better team. I mean, I believe they beat them not every single time, but mostly every single time.
They only lost once.
Yeah,
they beat them a lot when it mattered. They beat them on Christmas. They beat them in the NBA Cup. I feel you, Zeke. And, you know, we could go into this more, but we are running out of time. Sure. I got Cleveland and OKC in the finals. I don't want to give my predictions on that until we get further deeper into the playoffs. But Zeke, you got it. You know, this was the longest, best thing I saw that we didn't have ever. But of course, we always love having you on the program.
Absolutely, and I love being here.
Come back anytime, my friend.
Sure. Well, you got my number, and you shot me a call, and I came here. You know,
stepped in, coming off the bench.
Second, he was like, "Hey,
you know what I'm saying?
Ruben's not here."
Pulling him out of the bullpen, whatever analogy you want to use, because Zeke played baseball, so we called him out of the bullpen. That's almost like your boy Yamamoto from the Dodgers.
There we go.
We put you in.
And I'm gonna get the strikeout.
You know what I'm saying? Well, that will do it for this episode of the 24th Floor. We want to thank everybody who joined the show. Our guy Terry Davis, our guy from Ole Miss Locked On, Stephen Willis, and of course the main man, Ezekiel Telemaco. When we come back, hopefully Ruben will join us on the next episode. But until then, that is this episode of the 24th Floor. Also, thank you to everybody behind the scenes, Leanna Davis, Brooklyn High, Chrissy Freitas, Andrew Pollard, all of them. We'll see you next time.
See you later.